Hey guys, so it wouldn't be the final week of the 6-week abundance training course if I didn't send you the final video late. So this last week I have been working on kind of how I was wrapping up all the content and really understanding how it applied to me, because what I really want people to get out of this when they go through all the material is to be able to clearly see in a way that's very identifiable what their primary beliefs and lack are, where they are most easily triggered, kind of where our fault lines are, like I said, where we're most vulnerable, what things trigger us most easily into those things, and therefore where we can focus on changing our beliefs and focus on doing things that help support our new beliefs. Because really what we're doing here is boiling this all down to the core issue, which is the beliefs that support lack, and then the behaviors that support lack, and the words that we say that support lack, that keep us in lack. So what I'm going to talk about in today's audio, and this is the last audio for the class, at least for the beta test, but the final is going to be coming out in October, so I'm really excited because I think you'll see it's actually quite different than what we've gone through here in terms of how it's delivered to you. So hopefully the fact that you've gone through all of this and got kind of discussed the sort of depths with me of this, that when you get the final class, it just feels more seamless and easily understandable and easily digestible. And the biggest thing is that you'll have processes and a workbook to work with. So I'm really hoping that it hits the mark. But I'm allowing it to be tweaked along the way too. I'll probably always continually make it better, because I think this is we're onto something so powerful here. So anyway, for me, what I did in our last video, I asked you to identify the door that you need to walk through, the one that you've been hesitating walking through, the one that you've been afraid to walk through. And typically why we don't walk through certain doors is because of beliefs we have that we're not enough, that we're not safe, that we're going to get hurt, that there's not enough. So we keep ourselves in the spaces we've been in for so long because of fear, ultimately, because of fear of the unknown. And that's why it's so important that we settle our core beliefs once and for all. And the cool thing about settling the bedrock beliefs of lack to abundance is that we can literally look at the universe, the patterns of the universe, the equations of the universe, the nature of what we are and where we came from, and we know that it's infinite. We literally know that energy is infinite, and it cannot be destroyed. It only changes forms. We literally know that the toroidal field is self-sustaining. We know that there is no such thing as time. We know, even scientifically at this point, scientists have found that death itself is just simply programmed into us. There's no actual reason why the body should die, other than there's a program that tells it to. Like, okay, start breaking down at this point. So it is our entire reality is based on beliefs, what we believe we create. And that thing we create is actually an illusion, because once you die, your energy still goes on. And so this is not just esoteric stuff. Like, when I talk about going after these core beliefs that our whole entire system matrix is based on, which is lack, it is truly an illusion. But we have been in it for so long, not just us, but our ancestors. It has been so deeply programmed into us. So we're going after bedrock beliefs here, and it changes everything. And it's uncomfortable because we have automatic programming, things we have practiced for so long that we just do automatically. So that's why going after these bedrock beliefs, we have triggers and we get uncomfortable, and I'm asking you to go towards things that that even though they may not ultimately serve you, these beliefs in lack, they've kept you safe. They've kept you from having to go through certain doors. And these beliefs in lack keep us in our smaller self. Like, we justify where we're at because of all the beliefs we have about lack, about there's not enough, we're not enough, the things that happen to us that are limiting us. And it's all true when we base it on a limited understanding of the universe. And that's why one of the biggest ways to get out of the war paradigm, the victim, aggressor, savior paradigm, is to really understand one of the most fundamental truths of the universe, which is that there's an infinite amount of realities. And that no matter which one, we see this every day. Everyone has their own logic. They come to conclusions based on their experience and their limited understanding. And if you really look at anyone's logic, when you break it down, even if, for us, if we do things that don't make sense, when we really break it down, okay, well, why am I doing this? Well, what's the belief behind it? When we get to the core belief, it always makes sense why we do what we do. There's always a logic to it. And based on the belief, it's logical. But when you understand that the belief is faulty and you could shift that belief, then it becomes nonsensical what we're doing when we perpetuate lack. So what we've been doing in this whole course is looking at these bedrock beliefs, and we've been sort of experiencing the discomfort that comes from challenging such bedrock beliefs. And what's interesting about bedrock beliefs is entire realities are formed around them. And so, as I said, we've been in this lack matrix for so long, and anytime a reality is constructed, especially a co-created reality, you need other people to participate in it for it to continue to function. And then the more people that believe in it, the stronger those principalities get, those principality and those dominions. So when those fancy words like principalities ultimately is like a way of looking at the programming. It's a way of saying, if you were looking at your brain, at the neural pathways in your brain, there's certain ones that are really strong, really well formed, and other ones that are barely firing. And the more you practice firing certain neural pathways, certain new beliefs, those pathways get fired more and more and create like a literal bridge. It forms another part of your brain, and that literally creates a new reality and starts creating a new automatic response. So principalities are the things that it's basically kind of the automatic programming that takes place. It's this amazing organic thing that we have, that our body is always trying to be efficient. So when it sees that we're spending a lot of energy doing something over and over, it's like, oh, here, I'll just make that automatic. And that can work for us or against us. If the belief is negative, it can work against us. If the belief is positive, it can work for us. But the mechanism is neutral. There's nothing wrong or right about it. So all that being said, what I want to do in this audio is walk you through what I've gotten out of this and how I'm finding my door, and sort of the game plan that I'm putting together to leverage my shift. Like I said, so we've been looking deeply at our own individual programming, what's caused it, the beliefs we have, what triggers us into lack. And when we've been able to identify that, then we can look, okay, here's my top triggers. These are the things that trigger me back into my old programming. So if these are my top triggers, these are the things that trigger me into my old programming, then this is the area I have to work. If I change here, if I change in this space, then everything will change. And often, so often, when we are attempting to grow and shift out of our old ways, we go to formulas, we go to what other people have done, we go to just pure logic, like, oh, if you want to feel better, work out. If you want to feel better, eat healthier or sleep more or whatever. And all of those are very good general tips, but they don't matter unless you get really in touch with your programming, because we all have such unique experiences. And for some people, working out or starting a diet regime, this is just an example, even though they're thinking, I want to feel better, I want to do better, and they focus on the diet or the exercise or whatever plan they have, often it can be more triggering of their core beliefs, because if they haven't dealt with their core belief that maybe they're not enough, or they have to earn their worth, or have to earn their right to be happy, then they've just set up another obstacle for themselves. And the new obstacle is, I'll be happy when I lose weight, or I'll be happy when I accomplish this thing. So we set up these obstacles for ourselves all the time. And like I said, even though the obstacles themselves, or the things we set up, may be good, logically speaking, like exercising is good for us typically, and eating healthy is good for us typically. But if we don't look at really where we're at, what our triggers are, having any sort of a diet or any sort of a plan like that, especially, for example, people who struggle with any sort of eating disorder, or, like I said, just a core sense of worth, and they don't realize that their motivation for setting up this thing is coming from, once again, having to play the same bullshit story of I have to prove that I have worth, then it doesn't matter. The thing itself is just another mechanism to play lack out. Now, that's just one example using exercise and diet, but it's important to look at this, because this is the core reason why formulas don't work across the board. They may be beneficial because they've worked for someone, and the brain is always trying to break things down to the most simplest form so it can digest it, so it can be attainable. And because the brain wants to understand things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, we've got to get behind the scenes. We have to know ourselves intimately enough to understand, where are my triggers? What are my core beliefs? What am I doing that is reinforcing those core beliefs? And we've got to make damn sure that we are not creating our business or any part of our life with those same core beliefs. Because then all that will do is our business will reflect back to us our core beliefs. And then often it ends up making us feel resentment towards our business or towards what we do, towards life. And then it's just that reinforcement of, life is drudgery. I feel like a slave to my work. So that being said, for me, this class was so, I feel like all my classes have a similar pattern, and doing, especially beta tests, doing them over and over has helped me see something really clear. I usually always get really excited in the beginning because I feel it's like all of it comes to me through inspiration, and I can see it and feel it, and I almost can see the whole thing perfectly. I think this is part of channeling, and I'll be so excited, and then I start the course, and that always feels good, and then somewhere along the line it gets kind of bumpy. And if I get triggered if I feel criticized, or sometimes it's not about anyone else, it's just me. I've developed from my experiences this overly critical part of my mind that I used to let take over everything. And I've put it in its place. I've learned to put it in its place more and more. But it's still, there's certain things that trigger it. And if my critical self gets triggered, well, then all my defense mechanisms get triggered, and I shut down. And if I shut down, then I can't channel. And then I feel literally stuck. And if I don't know have a system of how to work out of that space, or if I don't feel transparent enough to just share it, well, then I start feeling resentful of the whole process and resentful of the universe. Like, why did you have me channel this class? Why are you having me do this? When, it goes down that spiral. So I've learned this a few times, and that's what's powerful about pulling the trigger, as we talked about. When you pull the trigger, you get to see what mark you hit, and then you can see where you need to calibrate. And something about doing something more than once, you start to see your patterns. And so for me, as I've been doing this particular class, because I've done so much work from, for example, the first time I ever did a beta test class. And so I learned really quickly this time around. I was able to stop the momentum of my own critical voice from taking over. I was able to confront it, and I was able to stop and be like, wait a second, I see what's going on, because it's happened multiple times. I know the pattern now. I can feel it before it even takes over. I can feel it coming, and I'm able to handle it better. And this class even gave me another level of understanding that. And so what this class ultimately revealed to me is the importance of understanding very intimately our fault line, where we are most sensitive and vulnerable to get triggered back into lack. Because when we're triggered and our defense mechanisms come out and we don't feel safe, we reinforce really strongly all the beliefs that keep us in lack and that keep us separated. And for me particularly, my defense mechanisms, I go into isolation. I shut everything and everyone out, even if it's just energetically. I will just stop feeling that. You never stop connecting, but I will stop allowing myself to feel the connection. I numb out. And we talked about how dangerous it is to numb out to the other, because then you lose intel, you lose information about the conversation you're having with life, with others, with the planet. And so one of the things I did to help me identify my doors is I wrote down what are my main triggers. And this is what I recommend. You can come up with your own version of this, and the final beta test, you'll have a workbook to help you work through this. But it's cool for, not the final beta test, the final. It's cool for this beta test to kind of do this on your own and figure it out, because I find that sometimes what worked for me obviously won't work for you. And so you can tweak this any way you want. But I'm going to tell you how I did it. So I wrote down, in my notebook, I split a page in half. And on one side, I put lack beliefs for me personally, lack beliefs. And on the other side, abundance beliefs. And then under the lack beliefs, I wrote down, what are my main triggers? The things that trigger me into feeling my core lack beliefs. And the things that came through, which I already know, and because like I said, I've done this so many times, I can identify them quickly. And it's not even about class. These are beliefs I've had my whole life, things that started in childhood. So one was condensation, like when I feel like people are being condescending. Anyone, anything, whether it's just whatever, the energy of feeling like someone's being condescending to me is a huge trigger for me. Huge, huge, huge. So the trigger of people being condescending, people being disappointed in me, people feeling disconnecting from me, people like rejecting, the energy of rejection, like I'm going to disconnect from you, I don't like you, another trigger for me. And then blocks, period, like when I feel blocked is a big trigger for me. And then next to the triggers, I wrote down what are the beliefs that get triggered inside of me when I'm triggered in lack. So for when I feel like people are being condescending, the belief underneath that is that actually feels sort of painful is I'm not understood. I'm not understood. That's the belief. And therefore, they're being condescending to me because they don't actually understand me, which makes me feel isolated, which is connected to when I feel that energy of disconnection, like I feel rejection. So the belief underneath that is I'm alone. When I feel people are disappointed in me, the belief of I'm not enough comes up. And then when I feel blocked, which I told you happens when I get triggered and then I feel blocked, the belief that comes up is the universe is against me. And that's a big one, when I feel like the whole universe is against me. So these are the main beliefs I've found that trigger me into this state of feeling powerless. And then what happens when you look at your fault line, well, for me anyway, when I ask myself, now what do I do when these beliefs are active, these lack beliefs? If I'm in lack and I'm believing those beliefs, whether it's conscious or not, what is my automatic response? And for me, it's automatic. I isolate myself. I put up walls. I vacillate between being angry at myself and punishing myself, and then feeling angry at others and punishing them, and then feeling guilty for punishing others, and then going back to punishing myself. And it's just this vicious cycle. So that keeps me from staying inspired, connecting to my urge, and creating, allowing source energy to flow through me. It keeps me in a stagnant space because it's like a lose-lose situation. I'm bad or someone else is bad, and then neither one of those scenarios feel good, but I still feel these core beliefs where I'm not enough. So then I just start numbing out because I don't know what to do. And that's what happens when I'm in a state of lack. And when triggers reinforce beliefs that keep me locked down. So knowing this pattern, knowing this is how it works, and seeing it over and over throughout my whole life, having a game plan for when I feel like someone's condescending or someone's disappointed or someone disconnects or rejects me or I feel a block from the universe, how can I reframe the story and how can I do something different, tell a new story about it, take a different action than I typically take, and use different words, different dialogue around it that are more in alignment with beliefs that are supportive of me. So on the other side of the page where I put abundance beliefs, I wrote down the same triggers, but what the opposite of those triggers are. Like, in other words, what is a new meaning I can give that same trigger? Because all these things are the condensation, the disappointment, the disconnection, the blocks, they're all a story I'm telling. And it's all me interpreting energy based on past experiences. It doesn't mean there's actually truth to that, to what I'm saying, or to what I'm believing in those moments. So on the other side of it, the opposite of the energy of someone being condescending is someone being like having a lot of celebration of you or praise of you. And so these are the, excuse me, these are the energies on the other side in which it triggers me into feeling more positive beliefs. So when I feel like someone's excited about what I'm saying or what I'm doing, or they're praising me, like giving me, verbal affirmation, I guess, then I feel the opposite belief of when I'm in lack. I feel understood instead of I'm not understood. I feel like I'm understood, therefore I'm connected. Rather than the energy of disappointment, when I feel the energy of approval, it triggers the belief of I'm enough. I'm approved of, I'm enough. When I feel the energy of, rather than disconnection, if I feel connected, I feel that belief of I'm in communion. I'm not alone. I'm in communion with others, which strengthens my sense of self, my sense of worth. And then rather than feeling the energy of being blocked, when I'm feeling like the universe clears a space for me, I feel the belief of I'm supported. And then when what these energies trigger in me in terms of response is a sense of love, connection, celebration. When I'm in this state, I'm way more forgiving of others. I'm way more allowing. I'm way more open. I allow myself to receive more. I allow myself to give more because I feel like there's enough. I'm enough. So when we feel that way, we're not hoarding energy. But the interesting thing about this, when I was looking at these side by side, is if I stayed in lack, if I stayed in the belief that the external has to be what approves of me, or the external, I have to prove to the external in order to get praise or approval or connection, or have the universe clear the blocks, I have to be good enough. Then it keeps me vacillating all the time between lack and abundance. And it's always dependent on, am I doing enough? Which is an exhausting space to be. And this is what most people do. They play this back and forth game. Today I'm worthy because I did this. Tomorrow I'm not worthy because I didn't do this. And it's like our value is always up for auction, so to speak. There's no security. There's no ultimate security because every day is different. And so ultimately, for me, as I look at these patterns back and forth, as I look at my core beliefs that keep me out of creation mode, out of thriving, and I look at the beliefs that keep me in creation mode and into thriving, what I've realized is this is and we've talked about this so much, but it's truly an inside job. So my highest leverage point is doing anything and everything I can to establish these positive core beliefs in my life from within. So that means I need to make it a point to celebrate and praise myself, even the littlest things. And so I'll get into that in 1 second. I need to make it a point to approve of myself. I need to make it a point to make sure that I have connection with others. I need to make it a point to clear my energy regularly and to move towards energy that feels clear. So when I'm blocked, rather than getting triggered into the belief that the universe is against me, changing the storyline, this is for me. Everything is for me. I believe the universe is for me. So if I'm blocked, just like this video, I wasn't actually blocked. I was really just trying to get to Amanda, because so much of what I do in this class is channeled, but then there's the Amanda part, which I'm just like you guys working through it. So, so instead of the belief that the universe is against me, like it's blocking me, it's changing that and knowing everything is for me. So if there's a block, it means there's another door to walk. The universe is protecting me. So I have got to, looking at my main triggers, knowing what they do, knowing what state it puts me in, knowing how in the past when I would get triggered into these beliefs, sometimes it would literally take me out for months. For months. I would swim in this energy of feeling like I wasn't worthy and vacillate between being angry at others and then angry at myself and then angry at others and then angry at myself and then feel guilt and then feel shame and then try to be really good. And it just would go on and on. Now I catch it usually pretty fast. But putting together a game plan for your life, because remember, we're reprogramming from the inside out, and everything in your reality, including your business, will reflect abundance when you change your core programming. And then every action you take from that core programming will have abundance encoded in it. So you will always bring abundance to you. You will always bring more. You'll always expand. So putting together a game plan as you move forward, based on what you know about your core beliefs, is essential. Because now I know, having looked at this, the most important thing that I can do, as I said, is make sure that I'm confirming doing things, that my energy is spent and my focus is spent and my storytelling abilities, like the story I'm telling about any given situation, is invested in my new beliefs. That's my hack. This is the highest leverage point I can play, because I know that when I reinforce these positive beliefs, when I reinforce an abundance mindset, I get momentum going, energy flows more and more and more through me, and I magnetize things to me out of the freaking blue. And I mean, I'm not anyone else, so I don't know how your manifestation gifts in particular work. But one thing I have been so blown away by is that when I do this kind of work, everything about my business falls into place. Not saying I don't have to have a business plan or know what I want or anything, but I really don't have a business plan. Like for me, and for some people, this, like I said, this style may not work for you. But for me, I've found that what I'm learning at a core level is the universe has my business plan. I work for the universe. I work for Source. It knows. It's okay if I don't know everything. And so often in business, we think we have to do everything. We have to run everything. We have to make sure everything works. We have to take care. We have to dot all the T's and cross all the I's. And if we don't do it right, we're not going to be enough. We're not going to make money. And we take so much control over everything, and we leave very little room for the universe to move and work. Because from the intelligence of the universe, you know a fraction, a tiny sliver of actually what's going on. So it's insane to try to make all your decisions and plan everything from that tiny sliver of what you know. The things we don't know are so huge, and especially in terms of what the universe can do. And that's why I like to say faith is more fun than fear, because when we're acting out of fear, that's when we have to control everything and we have to do everything, and we just get overly involved in everything, and it sort of tightens up our whole energy field, and the universe can't really move because it's not going to override your free will. And when we are in a state of having to control everything, we're sending out the signal of, I'm not safe, I'm not enough, I have to protect everything, I have to control everything. And the universe will respond to your beliefs, because that's what it does. It reflects to you back what you believe. And so when we get into a space of allowing, and for me, like I said, when I focus at a core level on working on allowing myself to reframe the story I'm telling about any given situation and reinforce these beliefs of I'm understood, I'm enough, I am in communion with others, I'm supported by the universe. Knowing that changes everything for me. It changes my whole energy field. And then things just work out in better ways than I could ever imagine. And the coolest part is it helps the ego not overcompensate, because you realize, oh, it's way bigger than me. It's way bigger than me. This is not about Amanda controlling everything and being perfect and doing all the right things so that people can go, wow, look what she did. That's actually not what it's about. The universe already has it taken care of. I just need to get into alignment with it. The universe already loves me. There is already a reality in which I thrive, in which I'm in heaven as I am in my body and on earth. And it's just a matter of getting in alignment with it. And you can't be in heaven on earth and carry around these beliefs of I'm not understood, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, I'm alone, the universe is against me. So my number one game plan, having listed out my triggers, my beliefs that get triggered when I'm in lack versus my beliefs that get triggered when I'm in abundance, now I can see very clearly the difference. And this helps in our navigation, because the more cunning we can get about our programming, the more we can understand it from the inside out, the less likely we are to be screwed over by it. In other words, we can use it intentionally to work for us rather than against us. Like I said, the way our intelligence and our programming works is neutral in the sense of it'll support hell just as much as it will heaven. And here's the interesting thing to remember is that heaven and hell are the opposite sides of the same coin. It's the same energy. There's nothing ultimately different other than the belief behind it, the belief that's supporting the reality. So when we believe at a core level that there's enough, we will see our entire reality through the lens of that belief. And it changes our whole experience of that belief. So I feel like you guys get that at such a core level. I don't even need to repeat that anymore. But for you, when you look at, I really recommend doing this to get very clear about what are the beliefs that trigger you into your lack, or what are the triggers that trigger you into your lack beliefs, and what kind of things trigger you into abundance beliefs, and then make your business plan, your life plan around how can I trigger more positive beliefs in my life? What do I need to do? And then put together a plan from there. This is called leveraging. If you have a limited amount of time you have 24 hours in a day, and you get to choose. This is the part that's interesting about being in a limited perspective. You get to choose what you focus on in those 24 hours. I mean, obviously we're sleeping for part of that, but you get to choose, and you get to choose the story you're telling, and you get to choose the words you say, and you get to choose the way you respond to the energy that's coming to you. That's it. That's the only thing you have any control over. Everything else is out of your control. So how do you want to respond to life? And what are the hacks? What are the top things that you can do that put you in a state of abundance? So for me, two of the things that are just key, that I've known when I do these things, and it's not about doing them, it's about the state in which I do them in. But these things change everything for me, is when I wake up in the morning, have a morning routine, and make sure I have a night routine, where in both instances, the whole objective of those routines is to reinforce my positive beliefs. And so again, this can be different for everyone, but for me, when I wake up first thing in the morning, sometimes I'll just instantly feel overwhelmed, like, oh, I have to do this and that. And sometimes you're just not in alignment with that. Even if the thing that you quote unquote have to do is something you like to do, but I just personally, and I know a lot of you feel this way, it's so hard. I don't like having anything that I have to do, because my energy changes all the time and shifts all the time. And it's hard to condition myself into just a robotic mode. It just is. So I've found, because I know this about myself, I've found that if I wake up in the morning and make sure that because I can so often instantly feel this like, feeling, just sometimes I just feel, it honestly just comes down to, I get into the mode of feeling like I'm always having to do, like, or prove, those things in lack that we talk about. And sometimes I forget that it's not about that. I'm co-creating with life. I get to wake up and interact with my life, interact with my house, interact with my cats, interact with my clients, I get to create the environment. I get to create the space. And if I don't remember that, if I don't remind myself of that first thing, sometimes I can allow that other energy to be the energy that sets the day. So this is a huge hack for me. This is one of the biggest things that have helped me, is if I make sure, if I'm intentional when I wake up, first thing in the morning, this might sound weird, but what's helped me is to smile. Just to smile first thing. Because there's something energetically that happens when you smile. And then I say, thank you that I'm alive. Another day. That means I still have a purpose. And I got this from Catherine Zenkina, that particular phrase, which I loved. If I'm alive, I made it through the night, it means I have a purpose. There's a reason I'm here. And universe, today I want it to be our day. I want to feel in love with you today. I want to co-create with you today. I want today to feel like we're in it together. And remember that in our Trinity technology, we are all roles. So we are the villain, the victim, and the savior. And what we're ultimately doing when we shift our programming from lack to abundance is, as we've talked about, in this whole course, how we talked about your ideal client being your past self, your network in abundance being your future self, and it's all happening in the now. How you relate to your past self and the story you're telling about your future, what you're lining up to the future, is happening now. All creation is happening now. So when we step into abundance, to me, it's like I'm anointing my whole toroidal field for the purpose of restoration, which means every day we are interacting with our past self because we're interacting with our past programming. So every single day I get an opportunity to love my past self, to forgive, to understand, to allow, to welcome, to give myself what I didn't get. And if I take every day as that opportunity, knowing that when I do it to someone else, if I give someone else what I didn't get, I'm giving it to myself. If I tune in when I'm afraid or triggered and give myself a new message, the message I didn't get when I was originally triggered into these sort of beliefs, I'm healing my past self. I'm changing the past, therefore changing my future. And then if I allow myself to be excited about my future, open up, and I find a lot of empaths struggle with this future thing. A lot of empaths don't see a future for themselves. That was one of my biggest things for so long, is I did not see a future. I couldn't see a future because I couldn't imagine myself being anything other than someone who feels everything and have no idea how to navigate through all that emotion. So one of the things that have helped me so much is to start having a future for myself. And even if I couldn't think of specifics, because for me it's like, oh, this job or that job or living in this state or that state, I was like, none of that matters. I'm still me. And I tried that. I lived in Italy. I've lived in so many different places. I traveled. I was a gypsy for a while. I've had actually quite amazing experiences. And even when I was one time I was in literally a palace in Italy, getting a personal tour by the guy whose palace it was. He's one of the Italian royalties who's a winemaker, and I knew him just simply because we sold his wines in Portland. And he's giving me a private tour, and I'm with a PR person that I met, an Italian woman who did like PR for all the main like high-end restaurants in Florence, Rome, and Venice. So I'm like in this apparently ideal, like wow, woo, and I still felt fucking miserable. And I had that happen all the time. I would be in these incredible situations. I mean, I was happy. It's not like that moment wasn't happy, but I remember feeling this edge of sadness. Like, I'm here, I'm in this palace, I'm overlooking this gorgeous vineyard, I'm getting a personal tour, like really cool people, and I don't care, and that's when I was like, whoa, it doesn't matter. For a long time, I spent thinking that this experience would make me feel better, or if I went to college, it would make me feel better. If I went to grad school, it would make me feel better. If I lived in Italy, it would make me feel better. If I had a cool job that was chic, it would make me feel better. If I impressed everyone, it would make me feel better. And none of it made me feel better. None of it. And in fact, the more I got in the professional world, the worse I felt, because you guys know, as empaths, you can feel the underbelly of everything that no one's saying, that no one, like, I felt all the shadow contracts. I felt all the shitty things going on. I felt people doing things for worth, to get a sense of worth, or just like it. I don't know. It's not like it's some people don't do that. And you find people in every walk of life who are free from that, but you also feel it as well, because it's so heavy in every reality, every reality. Even when I was very Christian, I thought, oh, this is going to save me. And I dove deep into the whole Christian thing and did that. And I realized it's the same dynamics that you get in Mormonism, in everywhere else. It's just different branding, different marketing. We have a different set of who's important and who you pay your worth to, or who's the power here. But it's the same bullshit all the way around, because it's all based in lack in terms of how the systems, the foundations of the systems are run and played out. So that was a long tangent, but my entire point is, for me, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. It matters how I feel about it. And if I don't feel great about it, it doesn't matter if it's the most exciting, perfect thing in the world. It can feel torturous to me. And so knowing that about myself, and knowing that about my empathic abilities, which is the main thing I didn't have my whole past self, my whole life up to, the last 8 years. I didn't know that being an empath, I didn't even know I was an empath, and I didn't know that meant that I was experiencing life very differently from most people. And I didn't know that it was important for me to take that into consideration in order to be happy. I just didn't know. So now, knowing this and learning more and more and more how to leverage that, it changes absolutely everything. It changes everything about how I live my life. And so now I've been able to isolate it down to the one thing that if I focused on would change everything. It's this. That one thing is the core belief in lack. If I change my core belief to abundance, everything changes. And then the specifics of that do matter in terms of your personal story. And that's why you look at your personal triggers, the things that trigger you into lack, because they're going to be probably different than the things that trigger me into lack, because your life experiences have been different than mine. And that's why it's important to get really intimate with your story and intimate with your programming and love yourself. So going back to that analogy of the work of restoration, which is what we're doing here in the Abundance Matrix, the work of restoration is allowing ourselves to open up a portal to the past and the future and establish a connection, establish a relationship, relating to life differently. Because when we are purely in lack, we always are thinking of our past with regret, usually, or nostalgia, wishing we could go back, or we're trying to be in a future moment to escape, trying to be in a future experience to escape the moment. So you see how the Trinity is not in fellowship. It's not connected. It's disconnected, although it's always connected, but it feels disconnected because of the story we're telling about the connection. We can't fully commune with our past and our future, with our mind and our heart and our body, or with others and the planet, ourself, others, and the planet, because we're telling a story that we're not safe. And that story's true when we have a core belief of lack. If all the people we're interacting with also have core beliefs of lack, they're not safe. Because when people are in survival, that's when they do things that they would never normally do. Just like scenarios, if you were on a boat with 3 people or 4 people in the middle of the ocean and you were stranded, who's going to eat who first? You would never eat someone unless you were put into the conditions where you maybe had to. That's what I'm talking about with the survival game. It pushes us to do these things we would never do. But we could catch them way down the line and avoid all those sort of scenarios where you see humans doing things that they would never do if we healed the core belief. So, all that to say, going back to the morning routine, I'll wrap this up. For me, having that first thing in the morning, getting my momentum in the space of I am co-creating with the universe, and I want the universe or the source within me. Universe feels like it's external. Source feels internal, and both are relevant. But the source within me, I have an intimate relationship with, and I want it to feel like my most intimate lover. And so sometimes I even imagine like, what would be that space in which I felt that intimate with someone, where I woke up and I loved that energy or that thing so much that I just couldn't wait to co-create with it. And sometimes I don't always feel that, but I try to put myself into that space and also be real about where I am. If Source is my lover and I wake up this morning and I'm feeling a little sad, I'm going to say it. Hey, like I say it out loud, like I'm talking to God, like I'm talking to my lover. And I allow that soothing in. I allow Source to remind me that it loves me. And I allow Source to soothe me, to wrap me in its arms, to like just that approval, all those things that my soul craves and needs. And specifically the body needs it. Because remember, our physical body is what carries memory. The body is the program itself. The body is like the computer where all the programs are, but it's living. It's the living record of who you are, the living story. And the more we can interact in a living way with the living God, with the living source within us, we are like a living scripture. We are a living epistle. We are a living scripture. And that's the scripture. That's the word. That's the living word. That's the Holy Bible, you, so to speak, your interaction, your relationship with Source. And when we make that our number one priority, that's what lights up the whole grid, lights up the whole universe, because Source itself wants to know itself within you. And that's a pretty powerful thing. And so for me, top hack is waking up, making sure first thing I make a connection with Source. First thing I remember, I have a purpose. And then for me, because I'm sensitive to environment, is to set a space that feels really good. So, I mean, I don't have a 9-to-5 job. This is my job. So I will turn my TV on and put an ambiance. YouTube has like amazingly magical ambiances. So I'll turn on an ambiance. I turn on like classical music. I Palo Santo the whole house or sage the whole house, open my windows. And because remember, one of my triggers is feeling blocked, feeling stagnant energy. Stagnant energy makes me feel like the universe is against me. So knowing that, I've learned that clearing energy is incredibly important for me. And I think this is really true for everyone, but especially empaths or anyone who's sensitive to energy. So it's a simple thing, but I didn't know that before. I didn't know how to clear energy. And it's amazing how the simplest hack of just clearing energy, clearing my space, it gives me room to breathe. And then rather feeling like the universe is against me, I feel like I'm supported. Thank God there's Palo Santo in the world and sage. And even if it's a placebo effect, it works. And that's all that matters to me. So again, arranging your life around your fault line, knowing that these are my areas where I'm most vulnerable. So if I put all my creative energy into strengthening those vulnerabilities, I'm going to be strengthened from the inside out, and I'm untouchable. I'm untouchable. Because the only way we can get triggered into lack is when our defenses are left open. You know, we're left vulnerable. And if we don't have any backup plan, any direct things to go to, that I know, okay, if I'm starting to feel this, if I'm starting to feel like the universe is against me, like block, for example, if I feel blocked with my channeling or feel blocked with my creative flow, I know now, rather than fighting it and trying so hard and then getting more pissed and getting more angry and then shutting down, and now I know, get clear the energy. Palo Santo, go out in nature, put your bare feet on the ground, drink water, take a Epsom salt bath, whatever you need to do, but clear the energy. It's a hack for me. I know that if I feel like someone's being condescending to me, I know now that is one of my biggest triggers. And so rather than I know that if I react to it the same way I've done in the past, it locks me down further into lack, because my defenses come up, and those defenses that are automatic reinforce the beliefs that I have that I'm not safe. So now I know when I feel that condescending energy, one is to call it out. I literally will just call it out in a nice way, but I will flat out just say that feels condescending. And it's shocking how people act shocked when you actually point it out. And then they're usually like, "Oh, I didn't mean to be condescending," and they'll kind of backpedal. And you don't have to do it in a mean way, but it's just, this is connected to being assertive and owning our power. There's something incredibly powerful about owning how we feel. I don't have to make it someone else's fault. Like, you are being condescending, or tell them what they're doing. But I feel that feels to me condescending. I feel like you're being condescending. And it's just owning how I feel. And you don't have to do anything about it, but I don't feel good with this, so I don't want to continue this conversation because it feels condescending. If we change the tone of it, then I'll continue this conversation. Do you see what I'm saying? This is what empaths need right here. And this is so connected to being successful in your life in every single way. Own how you feel, say how you feel, but keep it. It's not about projecting it and making someone else responsible for your emotions, because that means we're back in lack. In it, from an empowered state, if I can own my emotions, even if it's, I don't say it to someone else, but I know how I feel, and therefore I know this doesn't feel good. It doesn't mean they're wrong or I'm wrong or they're bad or I'm bad. It just means it doesn't feel good. So if it doesn't feel good, then I want to move towards something that feels better, because I don't like the way it feels. And that's why I'm in touch with my feelings in the first place. My feelings are telling me right now something doesn't feel good about this situation. So I'm going to shift it. So you see how we're learning to be strategic with our wounds, with our triggers. Super, super important. So putting together a morning and evening routine, I've taken way too long to talk about this morning and evening routine, but for me has been key, because first thing when I wake up in the morning, I need to get in alignment. And then when I go to bed at night, in the past, what I used to always do, my dad pretty much trained me to do this, because my dad has his own issues, and all he pretty much ever looked at was what you weren't doing. It didn't matter if you did everything right. The one thing you weren't doing was the thing he pointed out and the thing he lectured you on. And it was the reason why you were never enough and never good enough. And so it ultimately brought this very self-defeating energy to me, that I just always felt like, well, who gives a shit what I do? I'm a piece of shit anyway. So like, I'm not going to do anything then. I'm literally not going to do any, I got to the point where I was just like, I'm not doing a damn thing. Nothing. I don't care because I'm not going to waste my energy trying to prove to someone I have worth when I know that it's never, ever going to be enough. Which honestly, I can thank my dad now, because he helped me see through the lack matrix. That's literally the energy of the lack matrix. But anyway, what I used to do when I'd fall asleep, and I noticed this as a pattern, when I would go to bed, I would just sit in my head and think of all the things I didn't do. I mean, it was an everyday night routine. And I thought that it was good. I thought I was, telling myself what to do better. I thought by pointing out everything that I wasn't doing or going over it in my head, that was somehow beneficial for me. But it was completely discouraging on every level to my spirit. And it's one of the reasons I developed such a disconnect from my own spirit, and why I developed such distrust with myself. My inner soul felt so alone, because even my own conscious mind was not for it. And it makes me almost want to cry thinking about that space and how lonely it is. And I was numbed. I didn't allow myself to feel, because all I felt was the anger that I didn't do enough. And so I couldn't get to what was underneath it, which was the part of me that was just hurting. So knowing that now, going to bed every night, one of the things sometimes I forget, but the thing that helps me the most is when I purposely go over in my head all the things I did well. Every single one of them. I refuse to think about anything I didn't do well, because I already know. You already know what you didn't do well. You don't have to go over it over and over again. I mean, sometimes I guess we don't know. But most of the time I'm very aware of what I didn't do, but I'm usually never aware of what I did do well. And so when I go to bed at night, I go over in my head when I remember to do it. And when I do remember, makes the biggest difference. I notice I even sleep better, is I'll just list all the things I did well. And actually, I'm always shocked when I start listing it, then more comes and more comes and more comes. And then I'm like, whoa, it's amazing what happens when you change the story you're telling. Because I so believed the story that I was never enough, I didn't do enough, I must be lazy. Because when you're an emotional person, when you feel everything, so much of your energy is used feeling. And so to other people, it can look like, what the hell did you do today? And to you, you're like, oh, you have no idea. You literally have no idea what I did today, because it all involved the unseen world. And now I know that, now I leverage it, now I value it. So now I can really look at that. And I still obviously have to do stuff, but I've noticed that when I when in my mind, like I did this, knowing how deeply I feel everything, I'm always sort of like proud of myself, like, wow, I actually did a lot today. Wow. I really got a lot done, and I kept a pretty good attitude through it. Or even though I got super triggered today, I'm so proud of myself that I handled it in this way. And then what I'm giving myself in those moments is something that I didn't get when I was younger, which is approval and understanding and praise. So remember, on the abundance side of mine, one of my triggers into feeling like I am enough is praise. I love, one of my top love languages is words of affirmation. And so I didn't know I could give them to myself. I didn't know I could give words of affirmation to myself. And so when I do that at night, it reinforces the belief that I'm enough. And then it sets me up for the night. So you see how it builds on itself. And these sort of hacks, understanding how you can reinforce, being strategic about how you can reinforce abundance beliefs in your core self, like reestablishing your bedrock beliefs in abundance. That's the number one thing that you can do that can shift everything in your life. And it may seem indirectly related to your business, but it will change everything. Because when you get in alignment about your worth, then when you're inspired, you catapult. Because your ideas for work, your ideas for whatever you're doing for your business come from abundance rather than fear. Come from trusting and receiving rather than trying to control everything. And I'm telling you, I know some people aren't cut out for this type of living in terms of living in that much faith. But what I'm realizing more and more and more is, whoa, like the more I step out of the way, the better things get. And things just come, and the perfect people. I can't tell you, pretty much all my clients, especially lately, just come to me. And they're like the perfect person, like my ideal person that I'd want to work with. And it's not, and obviously I put content out, so I'm taking an action step. But I'm not trying to control everything about it, right down to the SEO and okay, who's my target audience and what do they look like and what are they doing right now? What times of day are they online? And that's great, and you can hit a lot of marks with that, but nothing beats organic technology. Nothing beats getting in alignment with yourself and therefore having your inner being send out a signal that then someone else who is authentically in their space feels. And nothing feels better than when someone knows, to me, that they're meant to work with me. They saw something that I did or said and it resonates with them on every level, and they made the decision to come to me, and they're confident about that decision, rather than me doing a bunch of fancy marketing to try to convince them to come to me. And then that whole, I don't know. And then, I'm going to convince you that I'm the perfect person to work with you, and here's why. And I'm going to say all the right words and market it in just the way that you need because I've studied your psychology. Nothing wrong with that, but it is manipulative. And there's nothing wrong with manipulation when we know what our ultimate goal is, But I think, or I should say, nothing wrong with manipulation when we are transparent about it, completely transparent. Because there is, for me, I do want to line up with people that I can work with because I love mentoring people. It's an opportunity to love myself. There's something about when it's one person removed, all this amazing insight and stuff comes through that doesn't necessarily come through when it's just me. You guys know. So all that to say, I really hope that this class has encouraged you to trust more in your technology, your organic technology, and that energy that when you line up, you program the matrix around you to reflect back to you exactly what you need. And the step of the internet, I really think that those of us who are on this track, we are forming our own algorithm, and it's happening in a more organic way. And the more of us that only use the internet and marketing when we are inspired, when we truly feel inspired, that will put a boom. There's nothing like organic viral videos or viral posts. There's nothing like word of mouth. And this is the one thing I learned from working with my friend and mentor who will be co-creating a lot of new content with me. You'll definitely get to meet her. I told you she's the one that she never had a business card. She's never had a website or anything, but she's worked with high-end clients for quite a while and does very, very well and is very well connected. And it's through word of mouth. Like she built her business through word of mouth. And to me, that's the most solid you can get, because it's just this, it's not manipulated. It's solid. And now marketing is trying to understand the word of mouth thing and then using it for the benefit of driving marketing online and sales online, but it still doesn't beat organic word of mouth. Does not beat it. Can't beat it. So the internet has it has a role in all of this, but I just hope that if you got anything out of this course, you realize that the internet is secondary to your programming with the matrix itself, and that if you program the matrix inside of you, your own program from the inside out, if you program your electromagnetic field with abundance, you will have abundance reflected back to you. And it'll come in unexpected ways that are way more adventurous and exciting. But when we try to control everything, we may get results, but we're missing out on half the adventure of what this thing called life is and what it means to be a creator and a manifester and to really, truly have a deep trust and connection with life. We don't ever get there if we never risk. We don't ever get there if we don't let go of the reins and let the universe show us that it has our back. So I just thank you guys so much for going on this journey with me. I know this was a long video. All the content I gave you was a lot, but I know it's incredibly valuable. And I know there's gems in here that maybe even if you didn't get it the first time around, you will get it. And like I said, I really think when you get the final version of this, which will be much more simplified, all this background stuff is going to make a lot more sense. It's kind of like you got the director's cut with this. And I'm really excited. I'm excited to see what will come. So I've learned my lesson about not giving deadlines or dates because the universe is not letting me do that. So I cannot give you a direct exact date of when the final version will be available. I'm hoping the second to third week of October. So we'll see, but just know that it's coming. And thank you guys so much for just being so open and fluid on this journey. And yeah, I love you, and I'm excited to connect. If you are in the Spell of Astronomical Abundance group, I will be doing a separate video, a live for you in the group to kind of close off our time together. And the final thing that I was going to say, I guess I didn't even bring it up in here, is that, you know what, I'm actually going to do a whole separate video because I was going to talk about doing a spell to really set this in motion. And it's very short, but I'll do that in a separate audio so we can close this one out. But the main thing is just taking an action step. This is why spells are so cool, or prayers or an altar or whatever, but something that you can visibly connect with, tangibly connect with, that is a symbol of your inward commitment, that you have stepped into the realm of abundance, and everything that you do and say and take action on is under the abundance matrix, that you have chosen the win-win-win. And that is kind of a relief, because rather than having an infinite amount of options, your options start getting more specified. And even though there's an infinite amount, I'm choosing this. And getting to know the energy of that really, really intimately makes it so easier and easier and easier to navigate your reality. So I'll talk about that probably a little later this week. I feel like I've given you a ton of content. I know we're done, but I do want to give you sort of my spell. I'm still doing it. So what I'll do is just do my spell and then record it, show you guys what it is, and then you guys can get inspired to do your own. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Love to hear feedback. And I can't wait to see what unfolds from all this beautiful work that we've done.